Hello, SQL lovers. Welcome to today's section. Today, we're diving deeper into SQL with some essential concepts that every data analyst needs to master. One of them, aliases. The second one, aggregate functions. Then we'll talk about group by and having clause. These tools are powerful for summarizing and analyzing data, making your queries more insightful and effective. Whether you are calculating totals, averaging values, grouping data for better understanding, or filtering results based on specific conditions, these techniques will help you handle data more confidently and efficiently. By the end of this section, you'll be able to write queries that aggregate data, simplify output with aliases, group your results meaningfully, and filter grouped data with precision. Let's get started. So the first one is aliases. These are used to give a column or table a temporary name, making your query more readable, right? So if your table is having a long name or your column is having a long name, you can actually use that to simplify it, okay? To rename it. So this is the keyword AS. This will tell SQL that you want to rename this column to the one you want, okay? So, but this also to let us know that this is just temporary. It's not affecting the data that has been stored in the database. It's just for that query you're writing at that query you're writing at that moment. Okay. So for instance, now let's see how it works. Select star from accounts. So let's look at our account table. Okay. So when we look at our account table now, we'll see the column name like this date of birth. You might say, I don't want this date of birth. Let's use birthday, right? So you can also say this product code. Let's use another name. So what this basically means is that you want to rename your column, okay? And this come in handy, especially when you're working with long table name or column, okay? So and when you're doing join also, this is very, very useful, okay? So let's see how we're going to work on this now. So for instance, now I want to select first name, first name. So I just want it to be recognized as name, okay? So I don't want first or anything, just name. It has shortened the column. Then I want the date of birth, date of birth. So I want this to just be birthday. Then what else? Then dates opened. Let's say dates opened. I want it to be account opening date. So it's also to simplify, right? So you want to give more clarity to the column. So this date open, you can say account opening date, just to make it more understandable. Date. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do this so that it will be more readable. Okay. Okay. So when we run this now, it's going to rename this columns. So you see, so the first name, instead of first name, it has shortened it to just name. Then instead of date of birth, birthday, account opening date, all right? So this is how we use aliases to rename our column. So we use this in a table too. So, but we're going to see that when working with joints. This comes handy when working with joints, okay? So we're still going to talk about it when we're treating joins. So, but this is just it. So then you can also, if I remove this, this will still work because SQL already know that this is it. All right, that this is what I want to do. I want to alias my column. So you see, so even if I remove the keyword, the AS, it will still work. So you can put it, you can remove it, but for your query to be more readable, you can choose to put that, all right? So this is for the aliases. Then we're going to talk about the aggregate function, okay? So that's the next one on our list. Okay. So we're going to talk about the aggregate functions, okay? So aggregate functions perform calculation on multiple rows of a table and return a single result. So it returned a single result. This is a main point that when it calculates the result, that is going to return it as one, no matter the number of rows, it's just going to give you a single result. That's aggregates, right? To aggregate data. Okay, so we have common ones like sum, average, count, mean, and max. So these are the aggregate functions, some of them, all right, not all of them. So we're going to take them one after the other so that we understand it. Okay, so let's talk about mean and max. Okay, so mean helps us to find the smallest value in a column. So you want to find the smallest value, you use mean. You want to find the maximum value, you use max. So we use max to identify the largest value in a column. All right. So it depends on the column we are working with. So if we are working with a date column, so for you to get the minimum date, so that's the earliest date, right? So the earliest date means like the oldest. So that's when we are using mean. If, for instance, we are looking at the date birthday column, we want to get the mean, the earliest earliest date or the mean. Okay, so when we use the mean function, it's going to give us the oldest customer, right? The oldest customer we have. When we use the max in a date column finds the latest, the most recent date. Okay, so let's check that out. So select mean. So we want to find the mean. That's the oldest. Okay, we want to know our oldest customer. Date of birth, sorry. Date of birth. From from accounts table. So we want to know our oldest customer. So let's see. So you see, our oldest customer was born in 1975, December 5th, right? So you see, this column, right? So aliases is very important also when aggregating data because with this now, nobody will know what you're trying to do. So, but if we alias the column, this will give insight to whomever that is looking at your data, right? So let's name it oldest customer. So you see this coming handy as oldest customer. So when we execute this, so you see, it has renamed the column as oldest customer. If you did not name it, it's going to still output, but without the column name. So this is how we use mean. We can also use mean to find, so but it's just going to give you the just one single output, just like we discussed before. So we're going to look at this is when you're working with date column. So when you're working with something like number, So let's say we want to check the balance, okay? The person with the smallest balance, right? So let's see. So mean balance as mean balance. So, so you see? So what this means is that out of all the customers we have, that this is their the smallest balance, mean balance is negative 750, right? So then this is our oldest customer. So this is how to work with mean. So, but if you want to also know which customer is this that is having this date of birth and which customer is this that is having mean balance, that means you have to include details. And for us to include details, that's where window function comes in. So we have aggregate window function, but we're not treating that for today. So when we are treating aggregate window function, then we're going to treat that. So for now, we're on aggregate function that returns single value. So after that, we can now look at that's during our lesson on window function. We'll talk about how to get aggregate function and also get details. Okay. So then let's look at max. Okay. So we say max in terms of dates is going to return the latest date. Okay. That's US date. Then in terms of number, it's going to return the maximum, the highest number. So just like mean is opposite of mean, right? So let's see our youngest customer and customer that has a larger account. So our youngest customer was born 1999, December 30th. And then our customer with the largest balance. Sorry, I didn't change the column name. Sorry. So you see, whatever you give your table or column, that's what it's going to answer. So this now, I didn't change it. So that's why it's still giving us that. So youngest customer, this one, max balance. Let's do it like this, max balance. Okay, let me just run two of them at the same time. Okay. So you see, our oldest customer, this is our youngest customer, 1999. We use max to get it, the latest date. Then we use mean to get the earliest date. Okay. So then we use max to return the maximum balance of our customer. Like out of all the customer we have, the person that is having the highest amount that a customer had is this. Okay. So this is how to use max and mean to aggregate our data. So we're going to look at the next one. So the next one is count. Okay, counting rows. That's what we're going to talk about now. Count. Okay, so whenever we want to know number of rows we're having, right? So we use count. Okay, so there are different ways we can use count. Okay, because count can also count nulls, right? So of all the aggregate function, it's only counts that counts any data type. Okay, any column. Count will count any column. But for other aggregate functions like mean, max, sum, count, average. So this needs numeric data type to be able to function. So but count can count any row, okay? Any data type, I mean. Okay, so let's check it out. Sorry. So select. So we want to count how many customers we have in our bank. So let's see. Count. So when we count star, so this is going to count rows. Okay. from account. So when we count this, so let's alias it as total customers. All right. So this are the number of customers we have. All right. So you can also do count one. It's still going to give us the same result, one. So when we also do count one, it's still going to give us the same result. You see? It's still going to give us the same result. So you can either use star or you can use one. Whichever way you want, you can use. So but if you want to count a specific column, because there are some columns that might be having nulls, right? Because you can also use this count function to remove duplicate to understand your data. Okay, it's not only to count, you can use it to understand the columns in your data. So if you want to check our column now that is having empty, right? That is having null. All we have to do now, if for instance we want to count, okay, let's count balance. I think some balance are empty. Let's see. So if some of the customers' balance are empty and we are counting this balance, what it means is that when we count it, all right, it's going to return the number of customers. Okay, let's see. So you see, so some rows for some customers' balance are empty. So when we now count it, when you're counting column, it's going to ignore the null values, all right? So that's what happened here. But when you're counting star, it's going to count all the rows. The same with one, it's going to count all the rows. But if you mention a specific column, that this is the column I want to count, to see. So this will tell you that there is no value in the balance, right? So because if we're having total customers, 354 customers, and then when we now check the balance column, we're having 338. This will show you that um some of the rows are empty, right? So we can also confirm that by checking the balance column. Let's see. Select balance. Balance from account where balance is null. We've already treated this before, right? So for us to see, okay, let me just run this together so that we'll also look at it together. Okay, so you see, so when you look at it, so we're having 17 rows that are empty, null, sorry. Null is not the same thing as zero, right? So when you now add this to this, you see this. So you can also use it to have overview. You can use count to have overview of your data to know if there are any missing value, if there are any no value in the data. So count is very, very handy. Okay. It's actually an aggregate function that we use often. All right. So let's look at the next one. That's the sum function. We use it to sum data. So, okay. So for the sum, it allows us to calculate the total of all values in a column, all right? So unlike count, right, this can only sum values, okay? And it can only work on a numeric data type, right? So I cannot just use count sum star, right, in sum, okay? So you must mention a numeric value for it to work, okay? So let's see. select sum, so balance. I think that's the only column we have that is balance, that is numeric from account. So it's going to return just one single value. Okay. Okay. We didn't alias. So you see, that is very, very important that we always name our column, right? And it's very handy when we are doing aggregates, okay? When we are aggregating our data. So let's give it a total balance so that whomever is looking at it, we understand what we are doing, okay? So all the fund we have with us, all the customers fund, this is the output, okay? So this what sum basically does. Use it to sum numeric data type. So any column, I think is only this balance that we're having that is numeric. We can try, let me check. So it's just like addition. I want to add all my data together. So that's what we are doing. It's different from count. And this doesn't count null value, only count column that contain numeric data. All right. So let me look at this table. Table. Okay. We're using accounts table. Columns. Okay, that's the only data type that is numeric. Okay. So that's just it. The basic thing is to understand how it works. Okay, we just use it to sum up our data. All right. So we're going to so just like I said before, okay, we have aggregate function, okay, sum in window function too. Okay, so but we're going to look at that one later in the day. So now we are going to move on to the next section, which is we're done with sum count, which is, let's check, average. Okay, calculating average. So basically we know what average does, right? So average is going to sum up the data and then divide it into the number of rows. That's what the average does, okay? Okay, so average is going to give us the average of numeric value, right? So let's see. So if you want to get the average of the balance, all we have to do is just to use the keyword average, okay? Instead of sum, we just want the average. We don't want sum. So when we do this, let's run with the sum together. We're going to see the total balance and the average. Okay, so this is average of this. So what it means is that if we divide this into the number of customers we have, we get this. All right. So that's how to use average. So average also, null values affect average, right? So because, well, when we checked the number of null values in our balance column, we recognize that we are having 17 rows in the balance column that are null, right? So this will also affect the average because the system is dividing it with the total number of customers, right? And then some of the customers don't have balance, okay? So that's why it's also good to clean our data, right? So we can use is null, we can replace it with 0, meaning that these customers don't have balance, right? So, but because we're not treating is null today, we're not going to do that, but we're going to see how is null works, okay? That's in our later video. This is just for aggregate function, all right? So this is how to get average, okay? So let's check out the last one. the last one, which is the, sorry, group by. Okay. So basically, we are done with the aggregate functions. We've talked about mean and max. We talked about count. We talked about sum, average. All right. So I wanted to treat this group by, okay, with this because it will help us to understand it more, okay? After we finish working with, after we finish aggregating our data. So because this group by will help us to group and understand our data because at times the single value that the system is returning is not enough, okay? So that's where group by comes in, all right? So the group by also, okay, at times it's function like a window function, but it's not. This is just a simple one. The window function is just like an advanced grouping, right? So then let's see how group by works. So we've already summed this our data now. And look at it's giving us just a single value. So, but no, this is not what I want. I want to look at different customers, right? So let's say we might have to check our data again so that we'll be able to check the column. Okay, so that we'll see the column we want to group by. So that's what I want to do now. I want us to look at the table again. Let's see the table so that we know what we want to. Okay, so we have business segment. So let's look at our customers from different view. So we have account type, we have business segment. So let's group by business segment first so that we'll see how that works, okay? So after we've looked at our data, we've sum it to a single value. So now we want to group our data, okay? So group by business segment. So that we'll see which segment is doing more and which one is doing less. Okay. So look at that. So if we are grouping by business segment, so because we did not put details, we're not going to see the segment. So, but let's bring up the business segment here so that we'll look at it. Business segment. I hope I got the spelling. Business segment. Okay. So when we bring out the business segment, so that when we look at the data, we understand it. Okay, so look at this, beautiful. So if you look at this data now, you will be able to tell, oh, okay, our business customers in business segment, this is the total balance they generated, they have, right? So entrepreneurs, these are the total. So the retail customers we have, this is the total balance. So if you look at this now, you'll be able to tell, oh, this business segment is not doing well. It's like we're going to maybe do more advertising to them or like do more campaign, right? So this will tell you more about your data. At least you will know the segment that is performing and the segment that is not performing, all right? So that is the function of group by. Okay, we use it to group our data. So then let's look at the other group by again. So you can, if we have column like female and male, we can group by different columns, right? Let's see if there's another column. So for instance now, because this is okay, we're going to look at our other table because we are going to look at transaction table because this we can group with account ID because this account ID is this particular table, right? There's no duplicate value in this particular table. So the only thing we can group by is something like account type. So, but if it's transaction table, so it means that different customers can do, or a customer can do many transactions. So when you are grouping by, and you group with the accounts, you can see the customer that did the most transaction. But let's group by account type first. We look at the our transaction table. Group by account type. So we'll see the customers we have. Is it more of savings or more of corporate? Sorry. Group by is invalid. What happened? Oh, sorry. So you see, group by always works with aggregate sum, balance, plus total balance. So we can bring out the account type so that we'll be able to look at it. Type, remember E. Okay. So you see, when we look at this, you'll be able to tell, oh, corporate customers, they actually, the fund we're having, most of it are from corporate customers, right? Then you see current, and then you see savings. So group by doesn't only work with sum, right? So you can other aggregate function, you can also use it. So let's see count. So let's know how many number of customers we have, right? Let's do this. So let's see count. Count star as total customers. It's wonderful. So look at this now. So what this is telling us, right, is that look, corporate customers, they're only 92. The current customers, we have 102. The savings customers, we have 160. So what this literally means is that, okay, most of our customer base that the savings account owners are more. All right, so this will enable you to also make informed decision, okay? So that's it for group by. So let's look at it. So can we be able, let's look at our transaction table so that we'll be able to see how it works, because if the table is having more than one customer, you can also group by customer ID. So let's look at our accounts table, transaction table. Okay, transaction history. That's the name of the table. Select star. Select star from transaction history. Good. Okay, so let's use our top 10. You know, we've not used it since we've finished working on that. So let's touch it. So you can use it to just have overview of your data. So you see, so these are just the 10 customers. Okay. So, okay. So we can also just remove the top 10 and look at the table, entire table. Let's see. So when we look at the entire table, so these are customers that have done transaction. Okay, so this will actually requires us joining a table for us to get the details, right? So we have to join an account table, but because this lesson is not, we've not treated join. So if we look at join now, this will also make it more complicated. So let's just focus on the group by using the table we already had, right? So see, so when we treat join, then we can also see how group by work with. So because if we treated join, we'll join the account table. See, we have customer ID. So we join the account table with the customer ID. So when we now join it, we'll be able to group by, okay? So, but for now, Okay, let's just stay with the knowledge we already had, which is you can group your data, right? To enable you understand. That's after you've already aggregated the data, because it's going to return single value. When you group it by, so it's going to give you details, all right? So it's just like giving you more details concerning your data, okay? So because the single value is the detail is not having any detail, you just see the total without seeing the details in your data, okay? So that's it for group by. Then let's look at the having clause, right? So I also left this. So having clause and the where clause, they also work is just to filter our data. We use where clause and having clause to filter our data. So, but the only difference is that the where clause, if your data is aggregated, like you want to see customers are having balance greater than this, so it doesn't work with the where clause doesn't have work with aggregated value. So it's only having clause that you can use whenever you want to work on something like that. Okay. So the having clause filters groups created by group by is similar to where but works on aggregated data. So let's see. So select. So let's see average balance. Balance as AVG balance. Okay. So let's put business segment so that we'll be able to get it. Segment from accounts table. So if we try to use where clause, where keyword here, it will not work, right? So we normally use the having clause, but this week what we come after the group by, right? So if it's where statement that we are using, where clause, we are going to use it before the group by, right? So, but because we want to use the having keyword, so we're going to use it after you've grouped the data, okay? So group by business segment, okay? Having average balance greater than, let's do greater than 100,000. So that's 100, 1, 2, 3. So you see, having clause help us to work with group data, right? And it works on aggregated data. So this now, we've already aggregated our data. So that's why we are using having clause. If you use where clause, it will not work in this instance now. So that's where having clause come in handy. So look at this. So we have business, we have retail. So these are the average balance for this business segment. This is the average balance. This is the average balance for retail. Okay. Sorry, this is not what we want to get. What we want to get is actually customers that their balance are above 100,000, right? That's what we want to get. So group by. Let me not do this. Let me do customer ID. Customer ID. Let's do customer ID. And also, when you're using group by, everything on the select statement will come here. Every details you're seeing in your select statement must be in the group by line for it to work. All right. Execute. Wonderful. So this is what we want to see. What we want to see are all their customers that their balance are above 100K, 100,000. So this is what is happening here. If you look at this output, these are customers that their balance, they are having more than 100K. None of this will be anything less. So you see this where having comes in handy. So we use it, we can even do less than 100,000 to still get our result. So you see, so if we try to do the same with where, it will give us error. It's not going to work, right? You know, where clause comes before group by, right? So let's see. Where. So whenever your data is aggregated, like the value you want to get, so it means you have to use having to get that. Okay, see? An aggregate may not appear in the where clause unless it is in subquery, contained in a having clause or select list. So what this is saying is, so you're going to use have clause because you're dealing with aggregates, okay? So that's what this is telling us right now. So you can't work with where clause. So that's where having comes in. Though they are both used for filtering because we literally use it to filter our customers based on their balance, right? So that's just it. For instance, if I want to see customer first name right here, let's do first name, right? So if I run this, this will also give me an error message because I did not impute it in group by. So this is where window function is very, very important. When you want to see many details, then you might have to use window function. So look at this. An aggregate may not appear in the where clause unless it's in a subquery. This is actually not the error it's supposed to give me. It's supposed to give me error so that telling me that this is not in my group by. Oh, okay, sorry. Because we are still having this here. Let's comment it out. Okay. Execute. Good. So whenever you doing group by, right, and everything in your select list that is not aggregated is not, is supposed to be in the group by for it to work. See, accounts dot first name is invalid in the select list because it's not contained in either an aggregate function or the group by flow clause. So it's either is aggregated or you have to put it in the group by. So whenever you want to see details, right? So and at times this will not give us the result we want because you're grouping by customer ID and you're grouping by first name, you see? So this will not actually give us insights as expected. So when that's when window function comes in. Okay, look at our data now. So we're having average balance. So it's going to group the data first of all by customer ID. It's now going to group it by first name. All right, so this will not give us the exact thing. So, but when we cover the window function, we're going to understand it so that we're going to know when to use the group by. So if it's just you're grouping by one column, right? There's no issue with it. Then by if you're grouping by many, you want to see many details, okay? That's when you might have to use the window function, all right? So look at the output, okay? Okay. Okay, so I think that is, let's check. So, okay, I think that's the last one, having. All right, so you can also read more on having and where clause so that you not uh, be confused with these two because these two are used to aggregate our data. All right, but just like I said, the having clause works with aggregated data. Okay. So I think this is the end of our series for today. So there will be an aside exercise at the end. So I'm going to send it across. All right. So please practice. Practice with this. This will also help you to understand SQL, right? So this is being tutored in a layman language, layman understanding. All right. So please go through it and then wait for the exercise that is going to come after that. All right. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.